The world is definitely not ready to hear this, but there is no real picture of the Earth.
They did fake the moon landing, that's a fact.
A guard told me that he was asked to burn some photographs.
NASA misled the public about astronauts being on the International Space Station.
Yep. NASA is the home of the world's largest flame-retardant green screen.
This is a spacewalk video.
Mars is not exactly what we've been told.
This is huge.
Yo, what's good? We're back with another one.
It's showtime.
In 1969, Neil Armstrong became the first man to ever set foot on the moon. But one of the most famous legends that came out of this moon landing was from a missing 2 minutes of audio transmission that was being broadcast live on national television. As legend has it, during this missing 2 minutes, Neil Armstrong had apparently switched his radio over to the medical channel, which was not public, and had apparently said this to NASA. "These babies are huge, sir. Oh God, you wouldn't believe it. I'm telling you, there are other spacecraft out there lined up on the far side of the crater's edge. They're on the moon watching us."
Damn.
Now, this legend was confirmed by NASA engineer Otto Binder, who was monitoring the uncensored version of these radio frequencies during the mission. But despite Otto's credibility, his claims were mostly written off by the media because NASA insisted that the only reason the audio cut out is because one of the cameras on board overheated, thus interfering with the reception. That is until in 1979, Maurice Chatelain, former chief of NASA communications, wrote in his book, moments before Armstrong stepped down the ladder to set foot on the moon, 2 UFOs hovered overhead. Edwin Aldridge took several pictures of them. Some of these photographs have been published in the June 1975 issue of Modern People magazine. The encounter was common knowledge at NASA, but nobody talked about it until now.
Don't know how they were broadcasting it live in the 60s if we still can't do it today.
It was a simulation, bro. They made it disconnect on purpose to make it seem real.
The world is definitely not ready to hear this, but there is no real picture of the Earth.
What do you mean?
Every picture that's been released that's on Google and or released from NASA is a 3D render. There's only 2 pictures the Earth claims to have in its vault. Let me show you them right now.
You're telling me that my iPhone 3G wallpaper isn't real?
That's the blue marble. The blue marble, as known from popular media and your iPhone 3, this claims to be an actual photo of the Earth from space.
It's claiming that?
You want me to show you the other one? The other one's hilarious. This is the real one, apparently.
What?
It's called the pale blue dot.
Who took that?
I've taken better pictures whenever my phone is in my pocket accidentally, bro. That's what this looks like.
Why do all these pictures look so fake?
If you go through Google, there's not a single one that looks even remotely real.
Don't we have pictures of other planets?
I don't think you're ready for that conversation, bro.
Saturn picture. Okay, that is too This is made of the PS2.
You're really not ready for that conversation, bro.
Told you it's fake, bro. They're all Satanists.
Yeah, it's probably a good time to remind you, this is for entertainment purposes only.
NASA cancels its moon rover mission, and they called it the Viper Lunar Rover. It's funny, Wikipedia has its own canceled Apollo missions page, and you could just type in NASA cancels and just scroll and scroll forever. What about Artemis? They've postponed that, and it seems that anytime NASA tells us we're going to the moon and staying, it's like years pass by and still nothing. Look at all these cancels. July 16th was when the original Apollo mission took place, which July 16th is World Snake Day, and you can type in NASA July 16th and scroll forever and see how many times they've done something on July 16th. On World Snake Day, they gotta pay homage to their master, I guess. With artificial intelligence being at the level that it is today, I would think NASA would be all about carrying on with missions and using the artificial intelligence and the CGI at a whole new level. You would think faking space would be a breeze today, but something's got them a little stirred up, I guess, and hiding in the shadows, slithering like snakes.
That could just be a coincidence, mate. It don't mean they're all Satanists.
Think you're forgetting about Jack Parsons, bro.
What the fuck, man? Satanism. Look how these fucking people would dress, man. They got to this place of this elaborate satanic ritual setup that they had down there, where they had things written on the wall in Latin, and they had a girl's bloody dress, and they had a chair that was covered in something red. But then the guy who founded that lab, Jack Parsons. So this guy was involved in this nuclear weapons lab, and he's also an open Satanist? Like, what?
He was doing rituals before every launch.
Yeah, if you don't know about Jack Parsons, check out our episode on Alistair Crowley.
They did fake the moon landing, that's a fact, whether people realize it or not.
Yep.
Today, with 54-year better rocket designs and computer designs, the farthest that NASA can send a rocket with an astronaut into space is 1,000th the distance to the moon. That's why they're sending mannequins to orbit the moon that can't even land, because they would die from the radiation. Most people don't know, which is above the Earth, starting at about 1,000 miles and extending about 30,000 miles, is a huge band of radiation that astronauts would have to go through to the moon and through again back. The technology for an astronaut to go through it to the moon and back and survive has yet to be invented. They had 1/8 of an inch of aluminum. Now, when you get a dental x-ray, they use 1/4 inch lead. And so that's for 1/24 of a second. They would be in that for an hour to an hour and a half going to the moon, and an hour to an hour and a half coming back.
They'd be cooked, bro.
Yeah, the moon landing is questionable, but I don't mean it's fake.
Bro, everything they've ever released has been fake.
This is a spacewalk video, one of the originals from the 60s.
Yeah, that don't look right.
Told you, bro.
Here's how the spacewalk videos look in current time. Better, but still no stars in the sky. Where are all the satellites that are supposed to be orbiting the Earth? So are we supposed to believe that this is really a person walking in space? If I put this in a movie, any current movie, heck, any movie 50 years ago, would you believe this was real? Would you believe that this is real footage of somebody doing a spacewalk?
He's in a harness, bro.
Well, NASA says it is, but these old spacewalk videos aren't really easy to find. I wonder if that's just a coincidence, or if it's the fact that, I just gotta tell you, this doesn't look real to me. Not real at all to me. You might think different. Now, this is for entertainment purposes, and that's just my opinion. But what do you think, Fushkis? Do you believe those old spacewalk videos are real? Or maybe they're slightly manufactured? Shabadoo, Bushkis! Shabadoo!
That guy was clearly hanging from ropes, bro.
Yeah, it did look that way, but there'd have to be too many people in on it.
Only the astronauts, bro. There's only 48 in the whole world.
I had a secret clearance. I was able to go into restricted areas, which this was. And I walked into a photo lab, which was the NASA lab across the hallway. At the time, I was talking to one of the techs in there, and he drew my attention to a photograph, a NASA photograph. And this was an aerial photograph of the Earth. I'm assuming the Earth, because it had pine trees on it. And the shadows of the craft, or whatever it was, were in the same angle as the trees. And by its very nature, UFO, and I wanted to clarify that to a gentleman that was talking to me, means unidentified. So I did not know what this was. But I realized at this point that it's very secret, that it was kept secret, because I asked him, what are you going to do with this piece of information? And he said, we always airbrush these out before we sell them to the public. After that, I decided I would ask questions to other people. A guard told me that he was asked to burn some photographs and not to look at them. I'm willing to testify before Congress that what I'm saying is true, and thank you very much.
She's probably just trying to sell a book.
Nah, bro. There's loads of whistleblowers.
This photo was taken on one of the Apollo moon missions by NASA and appears to show dome-like objects in the center of a crater.
In my opinion, that is not a natural structure. It's got to be some intelligent species that created it. I was in kind of shock. And some of the craters would actually show domes and actual bases.
Ken Johnson was director of NASA's photo lab, and when he discovered these dome-like objects, his bosses told him to destroy the photos.
He finally said, I don't care what you do, just get rid of those pictures that were taken.
Is this a cover-up? Could there be alien bases on the moon?
Back then, I guess it would be pretty easy to get rid of photos, but these days you can just get anything back out of a hard drive.
Not if they burn all the hard drives, bro.
I was with the Grumman Corporation that built the lunar module. That was my main part. Then after that, I went to work over at the Lunar Receiving Laboratory and caught the astronauts coming back from the moon with the samples and supplies. And I've got the original pictures that shows it just as clear as it can be. Astronomers have come out and said, the moon is an anomaly in itself.
Yep.
It's too big to be going around a planet. It's the perfect size at its orbit. It can totally block out the sun. That's just two of the things. And the other one is for it to maintain the distance from the Earth, it doesn't weigh enough.
Told you, bro. The moon ain't real.
Ted, if the moon weren't real, so many people will have to be in on it.
Our moon. I can sit here and I can drag out a blackboard and show you mathematically this body, Earth, does not have the gravitational mass to capture a moon that big and hold it. And then not only hold it in a tidal lock. There's also, if you would check with Cherokee and the Hopi Indians, they have history, before white man ever showed up, of moonless nights. Meaning the moon wasn't there.
Yeah, no shit.
Then there's Neil Armstrong and all his stuff. They put seismographs and plotters on the moon. That was the first thing they set out in their instruments. Then they got up and fired the upper section back into the moon. When it crashed, the moon resonated like a bell, and it rang for hours.
They say the moon isn't hollow, but they thought the Earth didn't have water underneath it.
Yeah, and they recently found the ocean 3 times the volume of the whole world's oceans, bro.
Yeah, that's crazy.
The moon itself is a very bizarre space object. For example, the moon is about 1/4 the size of the planet Earth, making it the 5th largest moon in our entire solar system. No other planet that we're aware of has a moon that's that big relative to the size of the planet it's orbiting. Which brings us to the orbit. Did you know that the same side of the moon is always facing the Earth? This is because the moon rotates exactly 1 time for every 1 orbit that it takes around the planet Earth. Meaning that every time you've ever looked at the moon in your entire life, you've always seen the exact same thing. So if you think about it, the only people who have ever seen the backside of the moon with their own eyes are the Apollo astronauts. And what's crazier is that if you took the distance between the Earth and the moon and you divided it by the diameter of the moon, you get the number 108. And ironically, if you did the same for the sun, taking the distance from Earth, dividing it by its diameter, you also get the number 108. And because of this ratio, during a solar eclipse, the moon perfectly blocks out the sun to the millimeter, because the moon is exactly 400 times smaller than the sun and is 400 times closer to Earth than the sun, which is kind of crazy to think about when you realize the significance of this number 108. The radius of the moon itself is 1,080 miles, a multiple of 108. This temple in Cambodia, built in the 12th century, has exactly 108 towers, and the Hindu and the Buddhist religions consider the number 108 as the basis of creation, representing our existence in the universe. But here's what really gets me. If any of these weird moon coincidences did not exist, then neither would life on planet Earth as we know it. There would be no tides, there would be no seasons, and there would likely be no intelligent life, leading many people to believe that maybe the moon was put there by some other form of intelligence, which is an interesting theory to consider because there are ancient cultures that have been around for tens of thousands of years which talk about a time before the moon.
If the moon was put there, I wonder if it was to change the tides or the orbit around the sun.
Nah, bro, it's a projection.
This footage was taken aboard the ISS. The cameraman notices something down here in the corner. He starts to pan and zoom in on this object here. They're not sure what they're looking at. It's going about the same speed as the ISS. It's about the size of a bus, and they captured on camera for about 22 minutes. But what's interesting is what it does at the end. Right here you'll see they're attempting to follow it, but it starts going up and out of the view of the camera.
What the fuck was that?
Controlled disclosure, bro. They're getting ready for blue beam.
Y'all seen them two astronauts stuck in space right now? But they took off on June 5th in Boeing's Starliner spacecraft, and they were supposed to return back to Earth on June 14th. On the first day when they took off in the spacecraft, everything was cool. The second day, the reaction control system, I don't know what that is, but it sounds important, that bit shut down. That means the thrusters stopped working. So the astronauts had to take manual control of the spacecraft for over an hour, while the people back at Earth had to troubleshoot the issue. Some of the thrusters came back on, some of them are still messed up, but by the grace of God, they were still able to land this thing perfectly into the space station. However, due to helium leaks and thruster issues, NASA has determined that it's not safe enough for them to land this thing back on Earth. And it's looking like with these mechanical issues, they might not be able to come back until mid-August. They said that the Starliner is well stocked and should have supplies for up to 6 months. They're saying push come to shove in case of emergencies, like say something happens to one of the astronauts, still gonna try to land it anyway despite the mechanical issues. Last case scenario, if there's no emergency and they're unable to fix this thing, they'll send the SpaceX spacecraft up there for a rescue mission. The craziest part about this whole thing is that NASA gave Boeing $4.2 billion to work on the spacecraft. So eventually they want to do private commercial flights. I don't care how rich I get, I'm not doing it. And this particular mission was a test to see how this spacecraft would run, and it hasn't been going too well for them. Honestly, they need to put me on the team. I don't know nothing about spacecrafts, but I feel like I could figure it out. Anyways, y'all let me know what y'all think in the comments.
Come on, man, I didn't know there was people stuck up there at the moment.
They're not stuck anywhere, bro. They're in Texas.
I don't know, man, what if they are stuck up there?
Don't worry, bro. They're fine.
Do you have any qualms whatsoever about returning in the Starliner yourself? Why or why not?
You know, Marsha, we've been through a lot of simulations for this spacecraft to, go through all sorts of iterations of failures. And I think where we are right now and what we know right now and how the spacecraft flew as it was coming in to do the docking as Butch described, I feel confident that if we had to, if there was a problem with the International Space Station, we can get in our spacecraft and we can undock, talk to our team, and figure out the best way to come home. Like I said, we've practiced a lot, so I have a feeling, I have a real good feeling in my heart that the spacecraft will bring us home, no problem.
Yeah, it's not cool, Ted. We shouldn't be joking about this.
It ain't no joke, bro. They're taking NASA to court.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Today I'd like to bring to your attention a potential fraud on an enormous scale happening in York County. There's now clear evidence of NASA using numerous methods to grossly mislead the public about astronauts being on the International Space Station. During interior ISS scenes from NASA's own live feed, the use of wires, harnesses, green screens, and virtual reality have been detected to achieve the appearance of a weightless environment. Examples of this include astronauts fading in and out of the screen, green screen glitches, grabbing objects that aren't really there, pulling on invisible wires, getting tangled in their harnesses, and even astronauts appearing out of thin air. This begs the obvious question. If they're really up there, why are they using Hollywood techniques to fake the footage?
One guy saying it don't make it true.
Everyone's saying it, bro.
Hey, NASA employees are living in a simulation, and I have proof.
And even during simulations, it's not just an exercise. The simulations seem as real as the mission.
It's true, the director of NASA Mission Control makes sure that employees can't tell the difference between a simulation and the real mission. Pause and read his quote directly. It's understandable back in the Apollo days because all of Mission Control is just a bunch of data on the screens. I wouldn't be able to tell the difference between a simulation and a real mission if this is all I had, besides this real footage. Fast forwarding to today, not much has changed. Just a bunch of data on the screens, and we got one view, which they launched from Cape Canaveral toward the Bermuda Triangle. Then once the rocket gets to a certain height, it just turns into like a video game for Mission Control. During interviews of Mission Control, they really only show you just a little bit, but here's an interior shot of the ISS. I could take you there right now on Earth. There's a full mock-up of the International Space Station in Houston, Texas. Google Earth, Johnson Space Center. Click right there on Street View. It'll take you right inside of the International Space Station. Now look at this. I'm gonna venture on through and show you a specific part that will really blow your mind, okay? I want you to look at these stickers, patches, and signatures on the wall. Now get a mental picture of this. Now look at this supposed tour of the ISS while in orbit. I want you to look. See those and the signatures? Now, let's get a close look at the two compared to each other. This is from inside the mock-up, and this is from the tour supposedly in orbit. Now compare the two. What?
It's pretty fucked up. You sure that's true?
Yeah, bro. Why would they copy the signatures and stickers?
It's gotta be an explanation.
Yeah, they either copied every little detail, or it's fake, bro.
All right. First, you'll see it there.
What the fuck?
And I put arrows so you can see.
That's a fly, bro.
That can't be.
You can clearly make out that it's a fly.
Ha, told you, bro.
Can't be a fly.
Kind of flies around, gets blurred, and then it's in the shot, and it's walking, and I think it's on the outside of the glass. Even if it was on the inside of the glass, it couldn't fly around in the space station properly.
There's gotta be a logical explanation for this, mate.
For a fly in space. Come on, bro, don't be such a sheep. Look at that shit, bro.
What the fuck is that? Is that the feed from the ISS?
Yeah, but it's a 3D render.
Either that's a different part of Earth or someone's getting fired.
It's all fake, bro. You know NASA's got the biggest green screen in the world.
I just had to know why NASA is the home of the world's largest flame-retardant green screen, which of course I get fact-checked, and then they say, no, we had Big Easy Studios in our facility, filming a few movies, but it's the court case mentioned at the bottom that had me really interested, which we'll get to that, and man, it's been condemning. Big Easy Studios has everything you need for your next major studio or independent project. So they're a company that helps studios get their footing.
We also have Big Easy Productions, and they do movies that I can't talk about right now, but they also do movie productions here as well. So
what? Why can't you talk about it? Taking a look inside Michu facility, you'll see the green screen and you'll see the inside of their stage studio, which just so happens to look exactly like Warner Brothers' stage studio. And on the B-roll footage, when they went inside Michow, they showed a lot of the effects that Michow uses in their production, showing that they can augment reality right in front of your eyes. They show you they can make a spaceship appear out of thin air. They show you that even the rockets that you see on television could possibly be this CGI effects that they apparently use throughout this whole presentation of their B-roll footage. Faking gravity by having people hold on to their hair, faking the inside of shuttles, and the list goes on. We're talking about layered footage, green screen, CGI, the whole 9 yards that we always accuse NASA of doing. And now you see that they do it with ease.
Ted, anyone working on a film has to sign a non-disclosure agreement. That's why they can't talk about it. This guy's talking bollocks.
Bet you wouldn't say that to his face.
Yeah, I would. Wait, what are you doing?
You calling him, bro?
Come on, man, you ain't got his number. Fuck.
Ted, what's up, my man?
Suckhead thinks they're making normal films at Big Easy Studios.
What about the harnesses, bro?
What fucking harnesses?
The ZFX flying effects harnesses. Look, show him the harnesses, and let's see if he can explain that one.
We probably use them for training or something, mate.
Nah, bro, they're made for the film industry.
Come on, mate, leave it out.
Look, guys, I gotta go. Ted, I love you, bro, but you gotta quit calling me so much. And Sackhead, you're an NPC, bro.
Shut up. Ted, fuck this guy. He thinks the world's flat.
It's 'cause it is, bro.
For fuck's sake, Ted.
We need to do a Flat Earth episode, bro.
Yeah, if you want to see us battle it out, let us know in the comments. Alright, come on, let's see these bloody harnesses.
Here's some footage of them utilizing the world's largest green screen. And I want you to take note. Look at this harness. You see how it's sitting on this person and it's going up under the legs like that's actually a ZFX flying effects harness. ZFX specializes in movie harnesses. This is that harness that was being used. It's the 3-point harness. And looky there, NASA is on ZFX client list. Notice where these wires extend from, and look where this astronaut grabs this other astronaut right at the waist, where that harness has its wires. This is their background picture on Facebook, and take a good look at this. Look familiar? Now pretend you're standing about right here you'll realize that it's Big Easy Studios. So what came first, Big Easy Studios or NASA?
How about size? How does it compare size-wise? Stage 2 is 13,000 square feet, which is comparable to many. And this stage is 31,000 square feet.
The visual effects budgets for movies have gone from a few million to tens of millions. So, we have rocket scientists and all that kind of stuff working on movies. So, we have rocket scientists and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I can't explain that. It did actually look like he was pulling him from a harness.
Everything they've ever showed us from Mars is fake too, bro.
It's interesting. There were years ago when they did the Mars images, and they found that there were these obelisks and strange-looking objects on Mars. I went out to the Goddard Space Flight Center here outside D.C. to meet with Mark Carlotta and some other scientists there, and they said, yep, it's been pixelated out for the public, but there are structures there. And they're very ancient, but we're talking millions of years old, millions. And I was out in California after I had disclosed this to some people, and a man came up to me from JPL, Jet Propulsion Labs, and I didn't know him. He knew who I was and said, Dr. Greer, here's the issue. You're right, those exist, but we can't disclose that. I said, why? It's not an operational ET device. It's not, it's old. He says, yes, but you don't understand how powerful that this information is. I said, why? He says, if this was disclosed, it would collapse the fundamentalist orthodox belief systems of every religion on Earth.
Mars was in the Goldilocks zone at some point, so there could have been ancient civilization there.
Nah, bro. He's a plant for blue beam.
Mars is not exactly what we've been told. We were told it was a cold, dry rock with no magnetic field, and DNA would just unravel based on the radiation. All of a sudden, the new science has come out. Mars has a rotating magnetic field, and not only that, it spins on its axis almost at the same exact speed of Earth. So a day on Mars is like 23.5 hours. Anything with DNA can survive on the surface. Also now, the science data has come back from the REMS unit we sent there, and there's oxygen. Not only that, guess what they said about the soil? They said the soil on Mars is better for growing crops than the soil on Earth. Also, they keep finding more and more oxygen is being generated from somewhere as it's leaking. So who's creating or what is creating this oxygen? I believe that there are trees and plant life on Mars based on some of the satellite images that I've seen. And they've also found a lot of methane. Methane is usually a byproduct of a biological process, which means something is alive and something is creating waste product.
You think there's an inner Earth, right?
Yeah, bro. Admiral Byrd found it.
Then what if there's still life underground on Mars?
Mars is in Canada, bro.
What are you on about, Mars is in Canada?
Watch, bro. Does that shape look familiar, bro?
Yeah, it's pretty similar.
It's exactly the same, bro.
Maybe they had to build a replica.
And why hide it in Canada? Look, all the photos are fake, bro.
But why would they fake it?
Money, bro. The film set in Canada's a lot cheaper than sending shit to Mars.
There's this unknown 15-ton object orbiting Earth that is estimated to have been there for 13,000 years. With all this talk of UFOs and non-human biologics these days, it's time to start asking the question, what if they're already here? And we've got some close-up HD photos of this thing that are gonna blow your mind. This is the first thing we'd see if an alien species ever finally decided to start coming down to us, their motherships in our sky. Which, Apple TV Plus series Invasion actually does a really good job at depicting just how realistic this whole scenario would be, documenting the real-time experience of the events that would take place if an alien species were to invade, through the eyes of 5 ordinary people around the globe as they struggle to make sense of the chaos around them. But in our world, there's this object they discovered around our planet back in the 50s and is apparently still orbiting us to this day. This thing may just be our first sign of what's to come and has been dubbed the Black Knight satellite. It's a confirmed object documented by NASA, and we've since been told that it's just space junk, a discarded thermal cover, which granted it might be, but today we're asking the question, what if it's not? It's rumored to be an artificial satellite and apparently has been there since 11,000 BC. If extraterrestrial life ever did want to invade, they'd probably want to do a bit of recon first.
They're watching us, bro.
If intelligent life's watching this planet, they're gonna leave ASAP.
Hey guys, question for y'all.
Okay.
Do you believe this story is true?
Yes.
I mean, come on. NASA flew a car-sized satellite up to the sun. First off, right off the bat, the picture's fake.
That's true. That's why it's labeled an illustration on NASA's website.
And also, it's still 5.8 million miles away, supposedly, from the sun. So that means it's traveled 87 million miles since 2018. Do you guys believe that? It goes 365,000 miles an hour.
Yeah, it can actually go even faster than that.
Wouldn't it need to be sleek to go that fast without breaking apart?
I think it is pretty sleek, but no, it uses the gravity from the sun and from surrounding planets to kind of whip it around, and that is what makes it go so fast.
Aerodynamics don't matter because there's no resistance in space. And there's no gravity, right?
Wrong.
Except for when they have to use Venus's gravity, apparently.
Everything with mass has gravity. Even you have a little bit of gravity, so there is gravity in space.
Just asking. And also, how did they get a signal back from this thing when it's 87 million miles away? That's pretty far, right?
Yeah.
Did you ever go just a little ways out of the city and all of a sudden all the bars on your phone drop?
That's the worst.
Like because you're just a little bit away from the cell phone towers?
Uh-huh.
Isn't that strange? And yet they can get a signal 87 million miles away.
I don't think that's strange because they're using this instead of cell phone towers. This is designed to communicate with deep space. This is huge.
Well, that shut him up, didn't it?
Gravity is just a theory, bro.
NASA knows where the Leviathan is and doesn't want you to know. NASA used to be a marine exploration organization from the late 1950s to the early 1970s. However, at the end of June, many confidential files were leaked by a former NASA employee, the most notable being Operation Leviathan. In 1967, NASA launched a mission to find the Leviathan once and for all. On March 1st of that year, they launched a specialized fleet of 11 research vessels, and for more than a year, these ships scoured the oceans for signs of the Leviathan. On August 12, 1968, they found something astonishing in a remote part of the Pacific Ocean near the Mariana Trench. Their sonar equipment detected what appeared to be a kind of enormous underwater serpent, living thousands of feet below the surface and measuring more than 300 feet in length. This information was kept secret for decades but was testified under oath before the jury, so lying would be a crime. But the most shocking thing is that photos and videos were revealed.
Was Operation Leviathan actually a thing?
Yeah, bro. But we'll have to save that for next time.
Yeah, big thanks to Freedom Frog for donating to the channel. You know he's going to film a satanic ceremony and send it to us for the show.
Damn, bro. What if he puts a spell on us?
Nah, don't worry about him, man. He's cool. If you guys want to donate to the channel, you'll find the super thanks right next to the like button. But if not, just drop us a comment or a like. It all helps. Thanks so much.
Big up everyone in the chat. You guys make our week.
And as always, thanks for watching. Remember to like, comment and subscribe. And we'll see you in the next one.